Hello everyone, my name is Nida and I'm going to start this video now for mainly as a astrology channel-ish, right? Because I'm learning astrology on my own accord, so I'm not learning it from a person, a guru or any professional astrologer, right? So basically what end up happening is I know basic concepts, but then I go into complex stuff, right? So it's hard to keep track sometimes. And since it's not the traditional method of learning, I know how much I know all here, right? But to take it down on paper, to have a good sorted format, so it is digestible for people who want to learn astrology. That is not, like I know everything, right? I know what I know, and I can conceptualize it all in my mind. But telling it to people becomes hard, because if I'm jumping from something basic to something complex, and since astrology is a subject like most people our age, our generation, this day and age, don't have formal introduction to, not the right one at least, right? So anyone who's interested is welcome to tune in, right? Because they'll see astrology from my eyes, right? So basics and also complex topics, one by one. So as I go on in this law, right, I'll start posting with something as simple as the signs, right? And then I'll go into what the signs are, duality, elements, right? Why 12 signs? Why not 10? Why not 100, right? What is the basis of astrology? Why astrology? What is astrology, right? And well, not just astrology. I could talk about a lot of things because I'm learning a lot of things about the world, right? And astrology is just how I conceptualize all of that together, right? And one thing I've learned with my journey up until now is that it's a hell of a science, right? Like you can literally use it to understand anything from either mythological stories, those which are they're very much muddled into controversy, people not understanding the symbology behind mythological stories, and also how the hell does astrology even make sense in modern science? Like we look at modern science, right? And astrology shouldn't work, right? Because if the universe is an explosion, Big Bang, and it's constantly expanding, we shouldn't be born under a certain sign, right? Not in a way that, like, for example, you look at tropical astrology. Now this, I'm actually going to, once again, for those who are not formally introduced to this, ignore what I'm saying right now, straight away, right? So basically it's like, the sun sign. Sun signs are drawn out based on the month of your birth, right? So the month is fixed. We have 12 months, 12 zodiac signs, 12 months, right? So them being fixed does not make sense astrologically. What is astrology? What are the zodiac signs, right? What is constellations? What are stars? What are planets? What are wandering stars? History of astrology, how we started even thinking about that, some shiny star up in the sky, shiny rock up in the sky will affect us, right? The history of that from any kind of perspective possible, right? So if we are looking at the history of mankind as we know it, or think we know it, through just thinking that we were cavemen, right? And thinking that the first earlier man, ancient man, Stone Age man, started looking up in the stars and trying to understand what that was and what the hell made him. Sorry about that. What the hell made him think that these stars would affect us, right? Where does that thought process come from, right? And talking about all these things, history of astrology, future scope of astrology, um, where it is the current state right now, how people view it right now. People think it's a pseudoscience, whatever, right? People think there's a lot of controversy around it, right? And it's not just astrology, that is any mystic science, any spiritual science has that controversy, because on one side of the spectrum it could get religious, on one other side it could just be like you go into scientific thinking or scientific method. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would anyone who has had a formal education, right, especially in this day and age, in the modern world that we live in, would one second. Yeah, I'm thirsty. So anyone who's had a formal education, right, like us, the modern world, why would a person like that be interested in science of the past, right? What thinking ways of how old people used to conceptualize the world. Why would people go back? And a lot of people are doing this now. It's not just me. A lot of people are learning astrology, well, not just astrology, but many things. These, right? So it's like, if I'm out there in the world talking about astrology, and someone comes up to me and they're like, how does astrology even work? So I start telling them, introducing them to basic concepts of what astrology is, right? So the 12 signs, what are they? They are the constellations, right? What are constellations? Cluster of stars. What are stars? Gotta start from the ground up, right? So these people have no formal introduction to astrology. I didn't, right? But now I know enough to know how it can even possibly make sense, or just like why even bother to look up at the stars to figure out whatever's going down here, right? So I know that, right? But people don't. And so if I'm out there, I'm talking about it, I'll have to start from the beginning. Like, these are the basic concepts. This is that. This is that. And people asking me, wait a minute, I'm asking you how it works. Well, you need to know what it is, right? To know how it works. You ask me, how does an engine work, right? You need to know what an engine is. What does an engine does? Then I can begin to start telling you how it works, right? So for those people who are interested in astrology, want to know it, those who already believe it, and those who don't believe it but are skeptical, want to see what it's about, you are all welcome, right, to watch. So that is the secondary reason for why I'm starting this, right? For people who, instead of raising doubts without the intention of getting the answers, right? Why don't just watch my vlog, watch my videos, whatever, right? Just, if you're really interested, you would take time out of your life, out of the time that you do take out to ridicule me when I'm in front of you. Instead, if you're really interested, you're welcome, right? For those people, this, even for those who want to learn basic concepts, you are welcome. And those who already know and maybe want to correct me, maybe want to know what my insights, thoughts, and experience has been regarding this, can also tune in, right? So maybe I ended up talking too much than I planned on, but yeah, I had to say a couple things. So astrology is just one of the things that I'm learning. It's one of the most important ones, even though there are other things, right? Practical life matters. Astrology is like what people think is a pseudoscience, right? So astrology, why astrology? Why is it so? Why am I crazy about it? Right? I can answer those questions here, right? So you're welcome. This is just the introductory video to welcome people, to let them know what's about to come, what I'm going to do, and also for me, like I'm banging on my chest. Okay, this is an announcement. I'm starting something, initiating something new, which I will follow through on. I'll try to post every week, twice every week, maybe if that's possible, because I'm very much about it. I I always think about these type of situations, right? I'm a drastic thinker, so whatever I'm about, I always think about, what if people ask me how, why, what, right? To be your own critic, I try to do that. So I ask these questions from people who might not understand this from their perspective, and whether I can come up with answers to that. That's how I can increase my knowledge. Because if I'm putting myself in the shoes of some person who's skeptical, and then I'm raising a question, and then I'm backing myself, I'm trying to answer that question, and I don't have any answers. Now I know, now I realize the gap between my knowledge, right? And now I can fill those gaps and grow further, right? So this is it's very multi-purpose. Like if you know me or are getting to know me, you gotta know that anything that I do or anything that I don't do has more than one reasons. Otherwise, I would not even think about it or spend my energy, right? Or energy, time, focus. I just won't give into anything unless it has a reason that is not just one reason. Okay, it's gotta be multifaceted, multi-purpose, complex. And usually, like I said, anything that I do or don't do, I have many reasons, not just one. So if you're asking why is Miller posting all these astrology related stuff, like what is he posting on Instagram, what's he into, right? Has this guy not had a formal education, like we all did, and doesn't he know that astrology is a pseudoscience? It's an old traditional religious outdated crappy pseudoscience. Doesn't he know that? Well, I do. I cannot say I used to think that, because I always believed in astrology, even when I was young. Not believe, right? But like I know what I was told by my parents, that this is your astrology sign, whatever, and I was intrigued by those type of things, right? Because like most of my life, I don't know who I am. Trying to I'm still learning who I am, being 24 years of age, still learning. So astrology is just, I had to come across it one day, someday, eventually, right? I came across it. I looked into personality types, like what kind of personality am I? Who am I? Right? And astrology helped for a little bit, for a while. Then, I had to steer recently during the lockdown. I had to steer into Vedic astrology. Why? Because even though I was interested, and when I first started pursuing astrology around when I was in my second year, right? This was 2018, 2019, right? So when I started pursuing it, I just couldn't stimulate myself to keep focus, right? I wasn't consistent, right? So I just couldn't be interested, because you look at Western astrology, there is no good concept, not anything that I could relate to, right? And there are no stories telling you. Like if you look into methods of learning and teaching, okay, you look at the human person, the senses, right? We have the audio visual senses most heightened, right? Eyes and ears, right? So if we learn in that uh, medium, right, it is faster to grasp things. Okay, the lower vibrational the senses that we have that are stimulated when we learn something new, the lesser chances of that sticking with us. Okay, so for example, if you are watching a movie, let's say Harry Potter, right, for the first time, you have everything given for you, right? You see the face of Harry Potter, you see the face of Hermione, you see the face of whatever monster in the movie, right? And it's beautiful to watch, but you have everything given. Like there's no imagination stimulated in your mind, right? So when you watch Harry Potter for the first time, and then you watch the movies, and then you are like, wait a minute, there are books, so I'll start reading books, right? Because the new movie hasn't come in a while or whatever, and I'll start reading because the books are out. So you start reading the books, and when you read it, you start imagining, picturing whatever's happening inside the book, right? And you start picturing Harry Potter as Daniel Radcliffe, right? Because the image is already provided to you through motion pictures. Now, if you had never came across Harry Potter in movies, motion pictures, right, and you would have first started reading it in book format, right, your imagination would be stimulated. You would think, how does Harry look like, right? How does Hogwarts look like? Not just look like, everything else. How does it sound based on the description given by the author? Uh, and other than that, mostly your imagination. You stimulate imagination. This is why people say books are superior to movies. Okay, so there is that yin and yang there balance, right? So even if the image and the audio is provided in the movies, right, this is not stimulated the mind, right? So you're not really gone. Okay, but when you read a book, this starts moving, and that is good. It keeps brain functioning. That's why people who read books are seen as smart, and they are, because this works for them. Those who just watch movies, you know. But what happens there too is, since everything is provided, there's no stimulation, right? But like I said before, more the senses, more the sense. Wait a minute. Yeah, more the uh, multiple senses, right, are stimulated at the same time, meaning not just eyes, also audio. It is easier to understand something, right? So when you're watching the movie, it is faster to, instead of just reading, um, Harry grinned at Ron, right? You can just see Harry grinning at Ron in the movie. You don't have to read that. You don't have to stimulate your mind. You don't have to have a voice in your mind and read what it is, and then focus while you're reading, not just read it blindly, right? Because people do that too. That is different. Similarly, sorry, I went completely different. I do that. I derail. I digress, right? But I'm not talking about something that's unrelated, right? Why? Because similarly, just like this happens, when some kind of image is provided to you, stimulation is affected. Inner mental growth, brain function, affected, right? But with all that, still more senses that are stimulated with different mediums of transition of any knowledge, data, right? You the human body and the mind learns faster, right? So when you watch the movie, you learn the plot, the story, everything fast. Okay, so that's what's happening when you watch a movie. So it's all about the senses and learning experience. Okay. Why I ended up talking about this? Wait a minute, I forgot why. What was I talking about? Shit. I'll just be. It will come back to me. I'm like, I do have a good memory. Anyway, so yeah, so there's that. So how does that work? Understanding that, understanding our minds, right? So this is just the reason I gave this example was because I wanted to talk about how we learn, different speeds of learning when data is passed, right? Okay, now I remember what I was saying. Okay, so when data is passed, when like from one person to another, so if I'm teaching you something, right? If I'm teaching you in ways that I'm stimulating not just your eyes but ears, even your mouth, if we are communicating, if you have doubts, you talk to me, you ask me, what is this? Then I'll tell you. Right? The more senses are involved, the more you will learn. The faster you will learn. This is just about the science of learning process. Okay? So sorry about that. So when you look at, like I was talking about astrology, right? So when I came across Western astrology, I was not stimulated by that. Why? Because okay, so there are these stars, there are concepts, there are conjunctions, right? There is the birth chart, blah blah blah. I just like, I don't see, like I was still skeptical, right? Because this does not hit home. This does not hit a home run in my dome, in my head, right? Like this is not making sense. Like astrologically it's making sense, but what's the essence? Where's the energy? What are we talking about here? There is a scientific connection, and I did not. There is that, but just for me, Western astrology did not provide that. Me being an Indian guy, right? So then I steered onto Vedic astrology, and me being an Indian guy, growing up, knowing Indian mythological stories, it just helped. Because I was looking for the deeper connection I did not find in Western astrology. Like, what are planets? Because planets and signs are not enough, right? And me being a Scorpio, I needed to go deeper, and the deep stimulation wasn't provided with Western astrology, right? But in Vedic astrology, there is not just signs or planets, there are nakshatras. There are nakshatra deities, and those deities are the devas in Indian mythology. Then you can connect them with their stories that you hear in Indian mythology stories. And the whole point of, like, if you know anything about storytelling, why stories are even told, like I said before, writing a book, stories, transferring data, right? This is why stories are told. Okay, so when we were kids, we grew up reading lots of stories, right? Remember the story with the frog falling down in boiling milk or something like that? And what was the moral of the story? God only helps those who help themselves. That was the moral. So what was the point of the story? The point of the story was a moral, to teach you something. Okay, so stories are made to teach, mostly. That's the main purpose of stories. Okay, so all these Indian mythological stories are not so you can, hate on Ravan, hate on Lord Indra. No, you are supposed to understand the symbology behind it, connect that to nakshatras, connect that to planets, connect that to then learn astrology. Right? Now astrology is not the scope of those stories, but you can do that. And when I learned that, I was like, okay, Vedic astrology hits home with me, makes a lot more sense to me, right? So I started, going into that. So yeah, that's how my path in astrology has changed. That's been my journey. Now what I've learned about it, I will talk about in the upcoming videos. This was the longer version of the introductory video for my vlog. So like I've already said, anyone skeptical, wants to learn more, just wants to be introduced, whatever, you are all welcome. And thank you for tuning in. Keep tuning in just like you did today, or upcoming videos, right? Because if you're not following, you will not know. Like, if you just catch up on one video, you will not know what I was talking about if you haven't seen the earlier ones, right? So keep tuning in, so you can, that is if you are interested. No pressure, of course, right? And so yeah, the video got cut. I was about to end it by saying, keep showing love, keep tuning in, right? Like, subscribe, whatever, doesn't matter. We are here to learn. The purpose is not to grow my channel and get money, not at least not as of now, right? It's all about learning and getting to teach people, know people, and help people out, clear their doubts, just learn this beautiful science, right? So, thank you all. See you next time.